Welcome to another Third Apron podcast. I'm your host, Yossi Goslin, and here is part 3 of our division trade deadline preview series. We've already done the Atlantic Division. We've already done the Central Division. Oh, you know what? I have to update it because today we are doing the Southeast Division. So, as you can see, I've got a special guest today, my dog Maxie in the background. Wanted to be nearby while I am in here for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. And joining me as always is my co-host Sam. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm wondering why Maxie wasn't here for the Atlantic Division episode. It feels like it would have been more appropriate for Tyrese.
Yeah, I think Maxie. Yeah, I think he's a little jealous about Tyrese Maxey because after I got him, then that's when Tyrese Maxey got drafted and started coming along. But I think he's excited to hear what we have to say about the Hawks because they've
Well,
been in the
I think the move here is we bring him back for the Pacific Division episode because he certainly outranks Maxi Kleba.
Yeah, no, if you want to rank the Maxis, yeah. He and look, Maxie's all right. He's not the most behaved dog or the most active, but I do think he'd rank pretty. I don't think he's bottom tier Maxie if we're talking
He's a
NBA.
solid Maxi, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So like always, we're gonna go in alphabetical order, and today we are gonna. So that means we're gonna start with the Atlanta Hawks, who've been in the news quite a bit in the past. Like I want to say, like 48-ish hours at least, from all different types of fronts. So the biggest thing is that I mean, it's hard to say where to start right now because with them, there's like two big names they've been linked that have been linked.
Well,
Obviously Trey Young, and then the potential that maybe they want to get Anthony Davis. I don't even know, where do we start then?
okay, why don't we start with just the basic overview before we start getting specific? The Atlanta Hawks are 5.4 million below the luxury tax. They have 13.1 million in a trade exception from Bogdan Bogdanovic, but that would take them above the tax, obviously. 15th
Yep.
in offense, 19th in defense, 13 and 10 without Trey Young in the lineup this year, 2 and 8 with Trey Young in the lineup this year. That should send a message about what they're thinking. We'll obviously get into that shortly. They obviously have New Orleans' first round pick this year with swap rights to the Bucks attached. However, what has been kind of underreported, number one, they also have the right to swap first round picks with Cleveland. Now, San Antonio has the right to swap first round picks with them. So they will be going down from their own pick to San Antonio's. But with San Antonio being much better than Cleveland, they should also be back in the middle of the first round this year. Next year, they don't have their own first round pick, but they actually have a better one. It's largely been forgotten because of how good this year's Bucks Pelicans pick is. But separately from the DeJounte Murray trade last offseason, they have the less favorable of New Orleans and Milwaukee in 2027, as long as they're both not in the top four. As long as one of them's out of the top four, they get that pick. Finally, we got to talk about the cap situation. If Trey Young opts out this offseason, they can get to around 50 million in cap space. If Trey
You
Young
just spoiled like so much what I was gonna get to at the end.
we'll get to the specific, like we'll go through all of this. I just want to lay out the vision here. Like I want to go through the big picture before we start getting specific. So again, Trey Young opts out, 50 million in cap space. Trey Young opts in, at least as things currently sit, they're at around the cap. But if they trade for Anthony Davis and keep Trey Young, now you're basically looking at the luxury tax for I think 7 players because AD and Trey are like half of it already. They have Jalen Johnson, Okongwu, Dyson Daniels, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and that incoming first round pick. Those 7 players alone basically take them to the tax. So they're all over the place financially. Now,
Uh,
we have a lot of reporting today to cover. Do you want to get into that or should I?
So let me just so on the overview really quickly, as you mentioned, they're actually like one of the few teams that are trying to be good who aren't right up against the tax. They've got a little bit of flexibility. So a couple things. One, they've got all these non-guaranteed guys, Vit Krejci, Keaton Wallace, Mohamed Gay. I would imagine they're all going to get guaranteed. Dante was also non-guaranteed, but with the injury he has, that's already going to be guaranteed now. So I think this is how much they're working with, and it's good because it gives them a little more flexibility in whatever type of trade they want to make. Um, so they could avoid needing to get a third team involved. And as a worst case scenario, maybe if they do nothing big, they could end up just taking in a mid-size expiring, a small, slightly above minimum expiring contract or two, get some extra second round picks. So as a worst case scenario, they could just do something like that. So I think we should start with. I suppose let's start with AD first, just because that's kind of the order of things. The Hawks have been linked to AD for a while now. And then last night, so as of recording, this is December 29th. I think this will probably be up sometime after the new year. Last night, Mark Stein on the sideline published a report about how the Hawks have a strong, legitimate interest in acquiring Anthony Davis, and he mentioned that there's Risa could be involved. So it's kind of pinpointing to that package that a lot of people have connected. That would be Porzingis, Risa Luke Kennard. That's basically an equal salary match for Anthony Davis. With the tax base the Hawks have, maybe the Mavs also would want to throw in another contract to save money, like D'Angelo Russell or Jaden Hardy, because they have some room to fit that in as well. So what is your feeling on those reports? When we last touched on this last week on the Hawks going for Anthony Davis, we went into it and we both came to the conclusion that ultimately it doesn't really make sense because of the salary demands on top of whatever type of asset the Hawks would have to trade, whether it's that first round pick that you just mentioned that is probably going to be like maybe 15 through 20, depending where the Cavs finish the year, or Risa which I'm still inclined not to want to do that. I think I'd rather just still work on Risa even though he's clear he's not going to be like a first overall pick type of player. I still feel like, money aside, I would rather just hang tight if I'm the Hawks. So yeah, what do you make of all these reports?
I think Anthony Davis makes sense on a Trae Young team, but this is no longer a Trae Young team. Like, that's the idea, right? If you get Anthony Davis, like, you want Anthony Davis next to a high usage pick and roll point guard, which is Trae Young. But we've already established that financially, it probably isn't tenable to have both Trae Young and Anthony Davis on your team. So what are you doing if you get Anthony Davis and you move Trae Young? You're going to be this big, giant, athletic team, but you're not going to be that version of the team. Like, like Oklahoma City is so athletic and defensively oriented, but they have an MVP level shot creator in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Hawks don't have that. I don't know how they would generate offense with all of that size and athleticism and not enough like creation from the guard spots. Could you maybe get another guard? We've talked about Kobe White for them at points. Yeah, maybe. But I think if you're getting a 32-year-old, it's because you want to do it right now. You think he's the last piece for you. I think if you're trading Trae and then you're bringing in Anthony Davis and then you're like, we'll get the next guard after that, there's so much uncertainty that comes with that it doesn't feel like it makes much sense to me. I think I just disagree with their pursuit. Now, if the price is low enough, if it's literally just Porzingis and Kennard, and could you match salary without Risa? Like, I haven't looked that closely at it. And like maybe the middle first round pick, the Cavs pick, I'd be open to it at that point, but I don't think Dallas would do it. If you're talking about giving away Risa, who again is not going to be, like you said, a normal number one overall pick superstar, he's a good player, or at least has a chance to be a good player at the most important position, which is the wing. I just don't really get why you're that eager to do this. What do you think you're going to accomplish? This to me screams ownership is getting impatient. They want to win now. They're like, this seems like more of an ownership thing than a front office thing. Do you agree with that?
From the Hawks end,
Yeah.
I'm thinking the other way around, because this feels kind of like, and especially because we've had reports in the past about the Hawks being interested in Anthony Davis. To me, it almost kind of feels like this is maybe what he wants. If he's moved, maybe this is what he
Oh, this is a
considers
Rich Paul thing.
I'm starting to wonder if this is all, yeah, AD/slash Rich Paul. If this is what they want. Maybe this is what Dallas wants. That they just want to ship him to Dallas, get Ricochet. Maybe they're really high on Ricochet because these are pretty detailed trade. These trade details being reported. Where if this much detail is getting reported, then why isn't the deal getting done at this point? If the Hawks were so in on this, so we're both in agreement that this is probably a little more beneficial for the Mavs. You save a bunch of money. Maybe you get another draft pick. I don't know if you're going to get that much better than if you hold on to AD into the offseason. So that's where I'm starting to feel now that we're like a day into it and we take a step back. Just it feels like this is maybe what AD and Clutch want. Maybe this is what Dallas wants. I'm not sure this is exactly what the Hawks want. And it just because there's just so much variability going on with Atlanta. And now we could get into like a bigger discussion about Trae Young because I think you can acquire Anthony Davis independent of what you want to do with Trae Young, whether that is try to extend him at a very low amount. Maybe we can get into what his contract extension could potentially look like at this point. With the season he's having and with the league now starting to completely go against smaller guards. It feels like where last decade the pendulum swung against bigs and for more smaller ball. Now it's like the other way around. And as talented as Trae Young is on offense, he's starting to become borderline unviable as a player at times. So do you want to try to capitalize on that in a way and get him on a smaller deal, or do you just want to trade him to save money? I mean, yeah, like where are you as far as I guess like yeah, let's finish the AD thoughts and then you can give me your trade thoughts.
Okay, so I like the idea of Dallas and Rich Paul kind of using Atlanta as a stalking horse. That's a team that you want in rumors because they have a lot of assets. So if you're really trying to coax like Golden State, who it's all about like kind of iffy matching salary and their own future first round picks, having a team like Atlanta in the mix as far as the rumor cycle goes is probably a pretty beneficial thing. So I think that's an interesting concept. So the Trae Young thing, the way I look at this, if I were running the Hawks, I have reached a point where I would literally just trade him for expiring salary. The chance to have 50 million in cap space this offseason is so incredibly enticing to me that just getting off of Trae Young, what I would do with that space, to be clear, they do need an offense-centric guard. They just need an offense-centric guard who does a few things that Trae Young doesn't. Number one, he's got to be a comfortable off-ball player. And number two, he's got to be making in the 20 to 25 million range and not the 40 to 45 million range. So I'm just trying to get off of the contract. If I can do that, I'm taking that 50 million in cap space. I'm doing two things. First, I'm signing Kobe White. That's the exact level of offensive player at the exact projected salary that I think makes sense for them. And then I'm taking the rest of it and I'm getting another center. You might not be able to sign that guy in free agency. You might have to go out and trade for him, but that's a pretty easy thing to do. You could go to Dallas for Daniel Gafford. You could go to Cleveland for Jared Allen. Like you can go out and find that guy easily enough. I want that Trae Young salary slot to be split among two players, one of which is going to help me on offense, one of which is going to help me on defense. The advantage the Hawks have over so many of these teams that are in a state of flux and are thinking, how can we make our big move? Who should we be saving our assets for? Blah, blah, blah. Is all of those teams or many of those teams have solutions at guard or center, but are lacking on the wing. And wings are the hardest thing to find. The Hawks are so deep on the wing. Guards and bigs are easy to find. So if you want to just stick with what you have aside from Trae, you can be pretty selective as far as what you want to do at guard, what you want to do at center. Roll forward with your youth now and take advantage of these incoming draft picks you have where like maybe your next franchise player isn't on the team yet because you're going to draft him with one of these Pelicans Bucks picks. I don't know. Like my whole thing is I don't think this year really matters. I don't think they should be looking at this week East as like, this is our moment. This is our opportunity. No, they're so young. They're so deep at the hardest position to find. And I just think they have a long enough runway here that the important thing is getting out from Trae Young as easily as possible. I only found one team, maybe two, that I think makes sense as like just trade him for expiring salary teams. Do you want me to go through those?
Just really quickly, I want to touch on what you're saying. Where here's the Hawks cap sheet for next season. They, after extending Dyson Daniels about like 28 million below the tax when you're factoring in their 2 draft picks, and this was gonna be the challenge where coming into the season, is there a number you can extend Kristaps Porzingis to and try to stay under the tax with the rest of the roster? So to their credit, they already have basically a full roster. Uh, and then the other challenge was, can you maybe get Trae Young to decline that player option, extend for something less? I think it's completely changed. Seems like Porzingis no longer factors in. And that's what I was thinking about. If you're the Hawks, can you just trade Trae Young for expiring contracts? Maybe just like some very cheap rookie scale contracts. Maybe get like a crappy first round pick, just something to and get off him completely. Because if you to get off that $49 million player option, now, yeah, you're looking at about roughly 40 million in cap space, and that's while already having a full 12-man roster. And yeah, Kobe White is exactly one of the types of players that come to mind for me. Um, if the Hawks, tell a signal to Kobe White's reps that they want to pay him, whatever it might be, 25 to 30 million a year, and that might be the line that gets the Bulls to uh, want to trade him, then maybe something could be done now. I think you last week were, or maybe during the Central Division episode, were hinting at maybe the Bulls and Hawks could do something involving Kobe White and Vucevic for Porzingis, something like that. Seems like there could be something there. So yeah, can you either just trade trade Trae Young and get off that $49 million completely, or can you use the leverage of cap space to try to get some of your potential free agent targets now? Those would be the objectives. So yeah, what are your trades?
Okay. There's one team that I think really makes sense, but I'll start with just the easiest. Could you go to Washington and say Trae Young and Luke Kennard for CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton? Like, would the Wizards want to spend whatever it is, 50 million next year on the player option for Trae Young and then extend him? My lean is no. I think they just don't want to step on Trey Johnson, who they just picked. I think they have this. They might pick a guard with their pick this year. I don't think they'd want to do this. They're not settled enough at point guard for me to say no completely, right?
I think with that, it would be, does Washington want to go through this project of getting him extended at a number that then they could potentially flip him for more later? Or maybe do they actually believe in him that much for him to fit with their core? I'm skeptical on both those things. Really, though, the answer to any team interested in Trey is, what is he willing to extend that? Because right now, I would say it's a pretty high chance that he's just going to pick up that player option. It's I don't think it's gonna make the. I think it's gonna be hard for both Trey and another team to figure out some type of deal where he declines his player option and it makes sense for both sides. So I would, if you are gonna trade for Trey now, you pretty much could expect him to pick it up. So one, does that fit with the rest of your roster next year? And two, before you bring him in, is there some kind of understanding of what he's looking for, and does that align with what you want? Because that's the bigger thing. If now, I think that might be a little less of an issue, because it seems like Trae Young's probably not, he's not going to get a max contract on his next deal with the way things are trending. Not just the way the Hawks have completely fallen off a cliff since he returned, but just with the way uh, uh, players that are defensive liabilities and like a weak link to otherwise like solid lineup can kill a team. So seems like he's going to head for some kind of correction. So if you're a team, if your team interested, what do you still want him at No, and are you certain you could get him at a certain amount that makes sense? It's a lot of variables right now where it's still really early to tell. Um, but I is it crazy to think that wherever Trey ends up next, it's going to be at a lower at an amount so low that he's not like guaranteed to like close at every game. He can be kind of like not a super sub or anything like that, but like I could see it's something where he's making low enough where the team won't have to depend on him for too high minutes in high leverage
Well,
situations.
I mean, the core problem there is he's all of his value is derived from what happens when he has the ball. So if you're not gonna like close with him, if you're not gonna build your offense with him as the primary creator in mind, he's frankly not worth having on your team. At least not at the sort of salary he would respect. And like, by the way, like there's locker room politics that come with this too. Do you want to have Trae Young on your team in a role that he deems like unworthy of him? He would cause problems. Like that's just how it works. So I do think the next team that gets him is going to be a team that like actively wants him to be their starting point guard and have the ball in his hands a lot. I think Washington, even as a rental, it's not crazy because they could just look at that as for 1 year, for a year and a half, we're going to bring you in. We're not going to extend you. If you want to show us that we should extend you, we can revisit this later, but we're just going to bring you in, make life easier for our young guys, help develop them. And if in a year and a half, we like the way this partnership is going, we do have a lot of size. We have a lot of athleticism. We could protect you defensively. It might make some sense for us to reconsider this. But for now, we just want you as a developmental prospect. And like the Wizards, we're going to get to them later, have so much financial flexibility that having Trey at 50 million next year is just not really that big of an issue. Like it doesn't really hurt them at all. So I think that's a reasonable one. I just don't think it's the one that they would really go for. I think the one that makes the most sense by far is with the Clippers. It's straight up Trae Young for John Collins, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Brooke Lopez. Straight expiring money. If you're the Clippers, you're getting your guy who can be the bridge between this Kawhi Harden era and whatever you're going to have cooking a few years down the line. Hopefully, having Trey and Zubats will help you like not give away top 10 picks over the next few years. I think you could like it wouldn't be ideal defensively, but if you started Harden and Young together, but then the other three starters were Kawhi, Derek Jones, and Zubats, you're not going to be good defensively, but you could get by. I think you'd survive, and you'd have so much ball handling that the offense could at least like get you into the play-in. If you're just talking about getting him for free, I think that's worthwhile if you're the Clippers.
Only thing I'd push back on is the Hawks are not getting by with Trey and just about everyone else being average to impactful defensively. So I think Harden would have to head out, or else they're going to risk OKC getting a much higher pick again. But they could figure that out. If the Clippers want Trey Young, they could figure some type of trade. Because it's not like we both agree. It's not really going to be about getting the assets back, like a premium draft picks or anything like that for the Hawks. I think that ship has sailed. Just mainly clear off that money so you can have a lot more flexibility to reshape the roster. So I think that kind of is in line with the Hawks not really doing anything, so to speak, and not doing anything to improve their roster and situation this year. Maybe there is a trade where they trade Trey and the players they get back actually do help them. Maybe they'll just be better with addition by subtraction. But that's not really the goal because you and I both feel that the Hawks are, anyways, in a great position because of other moves they make. Everything that is going on the court right now, all the issues they have, it's mainly mistakes from the previous regime. And like, can you imagine where they'd be had they not done the DeJounte Murray trade exactly how they did it? Had they not done the Derek Queen trade? Like everything that they're being set up for is for recent moves by the new regime, and they still
Well, the
haven't really
DeJounte
come
Murray
into.
trade was the old regime.
Oh yeah,
It
you're
was
right.
yeah, it was
But
Landry Fields. Yeah. But
yeah,
the draft night Derek Queen trade was the new one, and Nikhil Alexander Walker was the new
yeah,
regime. Like the new regime we trust. We think it's generally a
yeah.
pretty good front office.
So and the DeAndre Hunter trade, just no one really expected that to really help the Hawks at all. And now with that pick swap looks like it might hit. So,
And they got off the
uh,
contract too. And then they got off
yeah,
of Terrence Mann
yeah.
in the Porzingis trade. Like even getting nothing out of Porzingis, I think getting off of Terrence Mann was valuable enough to them that that trade worked out pretty well. I have one last Trae Young idea. I don't take it super seriously, but it's Sacramento, so like I guess we have to because it's a veteran point guard. Trae Young and a Chicago first round pick to the Kings, DeMontis Sabonis to the Bulls, Vucevic, Zach Collins, and Kobe White to Atlanta.
Okay, so where was Trae Young going?
Sacramento.
And then Kobe to Atlanta. What are the Bulls getting?
Sabonis.
Yeah, just tough when it's a multi-team trade reading it off to me. I got to see it ahead of time. Um, hmm. I think that makes sense. I could see I for the Kings. I don't think it makes that much sense. It's just, but
I think the way
I don't think it
they'd
really
look
needs
at
to
it,
make sense. They just do it.
I think the way they'd look at it, aside from getting the point guard, is we're trading one all-star for another all-star and getting a first-round pick from the Bulls in the process. So, although I guess the Bulls give up Kobe White and a first for Sabonis? Actually, I think I could see the Bulls doing that. Actually,
If it's that the lesser of the Blazers and Bulls first.
yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
not.
reasonable.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable. Okay. So yeah, so with the Cavs, I think we're both in agreement. Whatever they do, just set themselves up for the tape, set themselves up for next year. They're gonna have their draft picks. Hypothetically, even if they traded Shea, they could probably find a
I have a
replacement in the
Shea
draft.
trade, by the way.
But either way, they'll probably be able to find a replacement for Trey or Shea. I'm not anticipating they'll trade Shea, but they'll be able to find another top guy to build around in the draft. They have that second pick as well. Then that cap space. If you can have that cap space, go after some of the guards. There are going to be a lot of guards available that they can pursue their trade replacement with. So, yeah, I'm not worried about them. Just don't stress out this year and just start working towards the next.
Okay, I've got a Shea trade before we move on. This is just a balancing out trade because Atlanta obviously has a million wings. Philly has a million guards. Shea for Kelly Oubre and Jared McCain. Challenge trade from the same draft class. Both of them pretty promising rookie years, kind of disappointing second seasons. They have the same amount of rookie time on their clock. They both have 2 more years on their rookie deals. Obviously, Oubre is playing pretty well for Philly. You hate to give him up, but McCain makes so much less that you kind of have to. But if you're Philly and you're like,
it's essentially Shea for McCain.
Basically, yeah.
I can't see Atlanta doing that. That's just
Can you
trade them. It just optics wise, it's too early to do something like that. Trade the number 1 pick for the guy who was selected 15 spots later.
I just think that's if you could get McCain as your like scoring guard at $3 million or whatever he's making, and then get off Trae and you have $50 million like with no real needs, that would open up some very, very creative possibilities for you as far as figuring out the rest of your roster.
Yeah. No, I could see Atlanta getting to a point where they do that, but I don't know if they could optics wise pull the trigger on something like that. All right, Charlotte, do you want to start us off with them?
Yes, the Charlotte Hornets are $14.4 million with luxury tax. They have the full mid-level exception available. They are, as of this recording, above average on offense, number 14. And number 24 in defense. The way we talked about them before the season, you would have thought they were going to be like 39th. They have their own first round pick, and they have Orlando's pick through a series of convoluted swaps. It started with the Suns and their secondary, tertiary swaps. I can't remember how we got to this point.
It'll be either Orlando or Phoenix.
Yes. Sorry, my phone is ringing, but I'm going to ignore that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. 2027, they have potentially 3 pretty good first round picks. Their own Miami's and Dallas's. Not all like Miami and Dallas, maybe are going to be good. Maybe they won't be. Like, I think those are reasonably valuable first. They have up to 12 million in projected cap space this offseason. You can potentially create some more if you get off of like a Grant Williams or a Josh Green. So that is the Charlotte Hornets. Yossi, what would you do if you were running the Hornets?
So I know they've been playing a little better than They've been playing a little better than some of the bottom tier teams recently, them and the Nets. But I don't wouldn't look at this as uh, is it time to start buying, take the next step. I don't think organizationally they're going to do that. I think you just take the internal victories for the coaching staff and the developmental victories on the roster. Um, this just uses to know who is good, who's going to stick, who's expendable. We know Knipple, he's their top guy right now. In the long term, most of their other rookies are looking like rotational pieces. Uh, thank God that Tajon Salon is starting to look uh, like decent, because that pick was starting to look like an absolute bust, and so that's really big. Miller needs to get his shot down, so like they still have a lot of a lot of information to gather, I think. So with that, no, don't try to do anything that push towards the playing tournament. Maybe they could get there on their own, but I think they need to see this year out, go through at least one more draft cycle, try to get another top pick, and then after that, I think you can start to make some bigger changes. Maybe want to start shifting some pieces around for better ones around who you know you're going to stick on the core. Obviously, who they draft will help determine that. And then I think next year, I think it's reasonable. Maybe they could be making a push towards the play-in. It's going to be about time, because they already did a rebuild. And then when new ownership took over, they started another rebuild because the previous because they previously like just punted on so many picks, Book Knight, Kai Jones. So they had to reset it as hard as painful as it was. So just do what I think most people are trying to see. What can they get for some of their role players? Miles Bridges, Sexton, Josh Green. Get whatever draft assets you can. And you mentioned, yeah, you can just get off some of their long term money, maybe try to be a cap space team to help reshape the roster.
I would actually be a bit more aggressive than you as far as like actually considering being a buyer at this year's deadline. I would do that for a few reasons. Number one, I think they really could make the play in because I think the Bucks are very, very vulnerable for all of the reasons that we've discussed. I think the Bulls are relatively vulnerable. They're playing well. They've kind of developed this identity. It's kind of counterintuitive. Like you'd think, oh, LaMelo Ball, they're playing so fast, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, they're actually like a pretty interesting and like mature offensive team. Con Knipple has been a revelation for them. I like considering that what we thought they were going to have at center. I think the ability they've had to rebound and like be a decent interior team, they've been better than I thought they've been, or they would be anyway. Like I would still be looking for a center, whether it's now or later. I just don't feel like they're not in that morass of like Sacramento and Washington. Like they're like a legitimate NBA team right now. I would sniff around the centers and I would see what's out there. Like I'll just go through some of the ideas that I have. Would you give Dallas their 2027 first back to get Daniel Gafford?
No.
Is that
And
too
that's even
much?
knowing that the 27 draft's not supposed to be all that exciting. I don't think Gafford's going to be worth like middle of the first round to. I think he's worth like a very very low first round pick.
Okay,
I
how
wouldn't give up
about
all
the
that
2029 pick that I believe is either Cleveland or Minnesota that they got in the Mark Williams trade?
for Gafford.
Yes.
I just wouldn't trade. If I'm Charlotte, I wouldn't trade a first round pick for Gafford right now. And I would guess there's going to be other teams that make stronger offers. I would try to, if I really want to get a center, I'd try to get someone much younger, um, and a little more of a ceiling raiser. Like I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more of a premium, dipping into that draft surplus if you can get somebody, maybe not exactly on a rookie scale contract, but maybe just right out of it. I just can't think of who that is. But
There
I
aren't
don't think
really, yeah.
Gafford's not
There really aren't guys
exactly.
like that.
Yeah, I would when I think about Gafford teams, Charlotte probably they didn't even come up for me.
Yeah, I mean the one guy you could maybe think of is like does Utah consider something for Walker Kessler? Because they do have the draft surplus to do that. And if they do want to, pick high in this year's draft again, Kessler obviously out for the year. Like, could that be a pre-agency thing that you do where you give up like 2 first-round picks to get Walker Kessler now and plan for him as your starting center moving forward? And I think the other benefit is like Kalkbrenner is not a starter and Diabate is not a starter. They're both like good players who can eat up minutes. And I think if you were to consider the Walker Kessler route, I don't want Walker Kessler playing 35 minutes either, between his free throw shooting issues and some of the fouling. I think I'd like him more at like 25 minutes a game, even if he's going to be making starter money. So again, like, and I also think Diabate defensively can certainly play four. I don't think that would be an issue at all. That's why I also thought about Sabonis. Now, whether LaMelo Ball's involved in that or not, I don't think that would be a crazy use of resources. Like, I think Sabonis makes a lot of sense in the kind of style that they're playing. Is any sort of like LaMelo for Sabonis trade appeal to you at all? Would you want LaMelo and Sabonis together?
I would not do that if I'm Charlotte. I would prefer to try to get them together, but I don't know if they're ready to make that type of deal, even if it's for a pretty low cost. If you can just get Sabonis for, like, let's say a combination of Bridges, Sexton, Green, just to get the money work, okay, maybe, but I don't think they're quite ready to make that step yet. But yeah, I would definitely try to pair LaMelo and Sabonis, or trade, or maybe you have already traded LaMelo for a different guard. But I haven't really thought about upgrades. I'm more thinking about like trying to get picks and clear more money. Uh, like, here's something I came up with. It's nothing super exciting, but when we were talking about the Bucks, we talked about how all the players being linked to are mostly on bad contracts, have neutral value at best. The Jeremy Grant, Zach Levine's, players of that type. One player who hasn't been mentioned is Miles Bridges. I feel like he's kind of in that same realm where if the Bucks wanted to get him, I feel like it shouldn't be too difficult to acquire him. He's just has not been helping the Hornets, but maybe if you're the Bucks, you're thinking he might thrive a little better with Giannis and their system. So I'm thinking something like Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, or Josh Green, one of those, and Plumlee for Kuzma, and then just 4 expirings: Thanasis, Cole Anthony, Amir Coffey, Andre Jackson, to make the money work. So you probably need a third team. But all they're really doing is, okay, you go from Bridges to Kuzma, makes a little bit less money, and you get off either Grant or Green completely, so you get a lot more cap flexibility for the summer to do whatever it is you want to do, whether that is try to facilitate more dumps to get more draft picks, or try to improve the team now. I'm just thinking from that lens. I think these are the types of trades we're more likely to see from Charlotte. But what do you think of that one?
I mean, yeah, if you can get off of Bridges, do it. I don't know. Like, we never talk about Charlotte, so I don't know what the consensus is on Miles Bridges. I just don't think Miles Bridges is good. What does he do to help you win basketball games? Like,
Yeah.
he scores a lot of points. I don't know what else he really contributes. Inconsistent jumper, has never defended at the level that his physical tools suggest that he should. Obviously, the off court thing is like at a bare minimum distasteful. Like, at like bigger picture, do you want somebody like that in your organization? I wouldn't. I would love to get off of him. So yeah, I think that would be a great trade if they could pull that off. I don't think there's much interest. Like, who was interested in Miles Bridges in the past? Like, was Phoenix? If you could dump him in any way, I'd be very open to doing that.
I think I remember around the time his free agency started, there was maybe the Clippers had some
Oh,
interest.
wasn't Detroit interested too?
Uh,
Could they dump him on
yeah,
New
maybe
Orleans because of Troy
Detroit.
Weaver?
Yeah, this is before all the
Yeah.
stuff happened. But I think the Clippers one was like when he was coming back. Um,
Oh, because the Clippers
so
do that all the time. They did it with Kai Jones. They did it with Josh
yeah.
Primo. The Clippers view legal issues as a market inefficiency.
And you can maybe say that about the Bucks as well, because they do have Kevin Porter Jr. there. So
Yeah.
that's like, yeah.
Another former
But
Clipper.
yeah. All right. So I think that's enough on Charlotte, which
Wait,
means
hang on. We have one more thing. we forgotten just like the idea of the LaMelo Ball trades because that was in the ether like a month ago. Are we like, is that over? Are the Hornets now playing well enough that they don't want to trade him? Like, should we at least just talk about what's out there for him? Because I do have a trade for you.
I think let's just get to your trade because I don't know what's out there for him. Like we don't know what's out there for Trey. I don't know what's out there for LaMelo.
Scoot Henderson, Jeremy Grant, and like the problem with Portland is that they probably do need to put a first round pick in this deal, but they can't, like, their own pick right now is too valuable and it's also encumbered by the protected pick they owe to the Bulls. And then they have those Bucks picks coming, which are untouchable. But you're not going to give up a 2031 first to get LaMelo Ball. Like, that's too far out. Could you maybe do like Scoot Henderson, Jeremy Grant, and you do something with Chicago to deal with, like, get that pick over to Charlotte? Like, is there basically a Scoot Henderson, Jeremy Grant, and something else for LaMelo Ball trade that makes any sense to you?
I would. My instinct is that Charlotte does that. I don't know if Portland is ready to pull the plug on Scoot just yet. They're gonna need to see him just one more time, and then they also have to decide that Lamelo is one of the options that one of their top options that they prefer. Like they'll have if they conclude that Scoot's not gonna pan out to be the guy they hope, and they need to move on. They're gonna have a large uh, they'll have a lot of options of guards to choose from that they could trade for, and it wouldn't cost too much. I think between a lot of the guards that are potentially available, whether that's Ja, Trey, Lamelo, Kobe White, I think Lamelo probably makes the most sense to Portland. Just a matter of how much they value him.
I think that's the best fit of these guards nobody wants and these teams that like maybe could use a guard out there aside from Atlanta and Kobe White. I think the other benefit too is you get off of Jeremy Grant. Like, is it that hurtful for you if you have LaMelo's contract on your books and he doesn't work out because you're going to be paying Jeremy Grant all that money anyway? Like, I view that as a nice buy low opportunity for them. He can play off the ball a little bit. I'd be interested. I don't know if they would be. Yeah, they're a little bit like Atlanta in that they have the wings kind of not figured out, but they have Denny and they have Kamara and Drew can obviously defend wings. Like they can afford to be thinking about buying at a position where there's a lot of supply in point guard as opposed to buying at a position where there's a ton of demand, which is the wing.
Yeah. Uh, I think we just got to see what happens with Scoot first. Hopefully he returns. Just so many injuries in Portland. It's not a Portland episode, but I'm still now I'm like shocked that Drew's been out this long. I'm kind of concerned.
Well, he's at that age, you just never know. Like I don't even remember what was the exact injury.
Calf.
Oh, well, with the calf, you just, yeah, at this point, calf can mean anything now. So, yeah, I guess I thought he'd be back, but I am not a doctor. I can't say whether or not, like, when they should expect that.
So next, Miami, and I'll kick it off to you in a sec. You can discuss all their, every like just where they are in the league. Uh, but with them, as I go through it, I think we might as well just start with when I look at their roster, they did a pretty good job putting together a roster that's like 10 deep and then could go to 12. So they have plenty of room for error with injuries. And when you look at the roster, it's hard to say what it is they need to improve on. I don't think there's anyone that's like it's a very good solid lineup. They started the season really well, really cooled off in December. Now hopefully now starting to make a little bit of a run. We'll see if that lasts. I just look at this team and I feel like we kind of have to start at the top where it feels like if they're going to do something, it should be to get another star. I think that's the one thing this team probably would need if they're going to do something significant. Um, I do have some other ideas of what they could do in case that's not what they end up doing, and most likely they won't get a star at the trade deadline. But that's what I feel like this team's missing, just a little extra star power.
It's not a little, like, let's be honest about what's going to happen here is they're keeping the powder dry one way or another until Giannis is settled, right? Like they're not trading for LaMelo Ball. They're not trading for Ja Morant. They're sitting through this until the Giannis thing gets settled one way or another. We both think they have a very good chance of being the team that ultimately gets Giannis. but they're not trading for Zion or trading for whoever. Like, everything right now is geared towards let's get Giannis, or let's do everything in our power to position ourselves to get Giannis. So here's where they're at right now. We'll get into the Giannis specifics, but here's the broad overview. 1.6 million below the luxury tax. They traded Haywood Highsmith over the summer to get under the luxury tax. They have a $17 million trade exception from Duncan Robinson. They're not going to be able to use that, just given where they are as far as the tax goes. That super fun Noah LaRoche offense that everyone got very excited about, it's ranked 17th right now. It's obviously cooled off a fair bit. They rank 4th in defense, which is what the Heat do. They, in their sleep, they have one of the best defenses in the NBA. That's what having Eric Spoelstra and Bam Adebayo does for you. They have their own first round pick this year, and it is in the lottery, I think. I can't remember if they're up to 8 now, but they're in the play-in, so it's a mid first round pick. They can't trade it because of the Stepien rule, because they owe Charlotte their 2027 first round pick. That also encumbers their 2028 first round pick. There is nothing more damaging. The one pick in all of the NBA, like, you never want to owe your pick 1 year out, because that encumbers 3 picks from a Stepien rule. Now, are there ways around that? Yes. Could you
I
trade
have
for a
one.
bad? Oh, perfect. And I have a half of one as well, but we're not going to talk about it in this section, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
If Andrew Wiggins opts in, they are right at the cap before considering re-signing Norm Powell and Simone Fontecchio. If Wiggins opts out and they renounce everybody, they're at around $30 million in cap space this offseason. So, Yossi, I will give you the floor, and I'm going to stand up really quickly. Don't mind what I'm doing.
So I just, first of all, before I get to my draft pick thing, I do have a trade with Charlotte, so that could dovetail into that. First, there's a Terry Rozier aspect where, let's say Giannis is available. We discussed this, I think, in the Central Pod. We were like talking probably more about the Heat's chances of getting Giannis, and we were actually talking about what the Bucks may do. But if Giannis is available at the trade deadline, and the reports about teams like the Spurs, the Rockets, not being interested, teams that could really make some strong offers for him, if that stuff continues towards the trade deadline, those teams aren't interested, and you start to look at some of the teams that would be quote unquote front runners. I feel like the Heat would be a front runner, if not the front runner, to get Giannis at that point, with a combination of Hero, probably Rozier. I don't think that that issue about potentially him not being able to get traded, I don't think that's, I think that he will be able to trade him. The Clippers, not the Clippers, the Rockets were able to trade Kevin Porter Jr. When he was on leave a couple years ago. So between like Hero, Ware, 2 firsts, I feel like you're starting to get kind of close to what might be the best package and maybe an acceptable package for Giannis. Now, let's get to my trade. So the Hornets, they have the Heat's first round pick in 2027 as a result of the Terry Rozier trade. I'm going to keep an eye on the Heat potentially trying to get it back. If you recall, the Heat owed the Thunder a 2023 first round pick that they traded to the Clippers to facilitate the Jimmy Butler trade in 2019. And then the Clippers immediately sent it to the Thunder to help get Paul George. So then in 2022, the Heat traded their 2025 first round pick, which just conveyed, to the Thunder, as well as to dump KZ Okpala, help them get under the tax. And they got their 23 first round pick back. And that opened up more possibilities for the Heat to trade more picks. Didn't amount to anything. They didn't make any all-in trade or anything like that. But it did open up more possibilities. So here's my trade. I think it's pretty simple. Let's say the Heat offers to swap their 2026 first round pick, maybe lightly protected, something like top 10 protection, to the Hornets, and you get your 2027 pick back. The Heat would then be able to trade 3 first round picks as opposed to 2. They're 28, 30, and 32. And if nothing happens now, then in the offseason, you could trade 4. It'd be your 27, 29, 31, 33. who says no to this?
The Hornets say no without getting some inducement because they already have 2 first-round picks this year. I think they'd rather have the higher upside pick in 27 because there is the chance with just any team in the NBA that they blow up and like things go really badly for them. I guess the one advantage if you're Charlotte is that if you think the Heat might get Giannis, maybe next year's pick ends up in the mid 20s, whereas this year's pick is probably in the middle of the first round. So I'm sort of talking myself into this, but I think I'd need some sort of inducement. I think I'd need like a second round pick or something like that. No protections. Like forget about that. It's not crazy. I think it's an interesting concept. So I the other thing about this for the Heat is they have so many guys in their like early to mid 20s that are already like decent bench guy, like not starter types, whether it's Nikola Jovic and Pella Larson and Jaime Jaquez has been very good off the bench, but he's not a starter. And Kasparis, Yakachonis, they just drafted. Like they have a lot of guys already that are in that kind of like mid to late first round pick morass that I don't think they really need to be picking again at like number 16. So I think just liquidating and putting yourself in a better position to trade for a star, whether it's Giannis or someone else in the offseason, does make sense. I think if I'm Charlotte and I'm doing you this favor, though, I do need something else. It's got to be like a second or like some young player on the roster that you like or something. Like if I'm Charlotte and I could get like Yakachonis for that, like I'd love to do it. That's probably
Yeah.
too much for Miami. Could I get Pella Larson? Could I get Fontecchio since they might not re-sign him anyway? And if I'm the Hornets and maybe I want to push a little bit harder for the play, like you got to give me something else, but I think the concept works.
So I'm sure whatever that last detail is, they can work it out. But I think the bigger picture is if you're Charlotte, it comes down to you already have 3 first round picks in 2027 and 2 in 2026. I think if I'm Charlotte, I would rather get a third first round pick in this upcoming draft. Mainly, not so much that I think the Heat's pick is gonna end up being a little more valuable than what they project. Because if they get Giannis, then chances are that pick's gonna be in the 20s. But we both suspect with Charlotte, okay, maybe this is the last year, but they are really in the draft focused on trying to get the best players possible at the top, and maybe they make a push next year. So why not get another chip in what is considered a pretty good draft, at least so you can try to get another bite at the apple, or maybe more realistically, have some more ammo to trade up. Maybe you don't get the number one pick. Maybe you get like 4 or 5, something lower. With those extra 26s, maybe you can move up a little bit. So, but getting back to the point, I it's supposed to be a better draft. Okay, then I would say even though you're gonna have 3 picks in this draft, I would say just get the pick in what's supposed to be the better draft and deal with the rest later.
Yeah, again, I think that's totally feasible. There's another thing there's another way they could try to satisfy their Stepien. We'll get to it a little bit later because it involves another team on this list. Should we just talk out like what exactly the Giannis trade would look like if it happened in season? I just want to lay
Yeah.
out the exact pick so people have it. Right now, the Heat have available their picks between 2029 and 2032 to trade. They could also do swap rights in 2028 because the pick they owe is in 2027, so they can't trade 2028 outright, but they can swap it. Why does that matter? Because as the Bucks are currently set up, they have picks in 2028 and 2030 as well because those are swap rights with the Blazers from the Damian Lillard trade. So swap rights in those years are actually pretty interesting for them. So if you were to set it up like swap rights in 28, 30, and 32, and outright picks in 29 and 31, you would then give the Bucks some upside back in 28 and 30, which they've lost because their own picks are controlled by Portland. So I do think that would, appeal to them as a relative term here because they're giving up Giannis. But as far as the Giannis trade goes, I do think that's a structure that, like, thankfully, the way their picks are set up does align with what would make sense for Milwaukee. It's just that 2 picks and 3 swaps does not feel like that much for Giannis. So it really comes down to how much do they like Tyler Hero and how much do they like Khalil Ware. Tyler Hero is who he is. He's, one of the many low end all-star type shot creators. We talk in circles every episode about why those guys are losing value. He's whatever. Wisconsin native, sell some tickets, fine. This comes down to how much they like Khalil Ware. Is Khalil Ware a future all-star? I don't know. Would I be a little concerned about a guy who had motor issues in college leaving Miami and going to a rudderless Bucks team? Probably. So I it's probably the best offer among the teams that are willing to trade for him without getting a commitment for a long-term extension. Do I think that means it's the best? I guess it's better than what the Lakers and Knicks can offer. That's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would guess that the offer would end up being, and I'll pull up the cap sheet. I put it all together. It'd probably be something like Hero, Rozier, Ware, and then 2 to 3 first round picks, depending if the Heat can do the type of trade that we've been discussing with the Hornets, and maybe some pick swaps. And then they get back Giannis, and then probably like Torian Prince, who seems like he's not going to play again this year. And then obviously Thanasis. Pretty pretty cap neutral trade. Both teams still stay below the tax. I feel like that might be where it would end up as. And I think, like I said, like a lot of factors need to happen. The Bucks have to be willing to trade Giannis at the trade deadline, and the Heat have to be willing, most likely, to part with Ware to really put their package in like real appealing territory. The Heat have been pretty attached to the recent first round picks in recent years. So
Can
I
I
wouldn't
just
be
read you? Can I just read you something real quick? This is Milwaukee's schedule between January 7th and January 27th. At Warriors, at Lakers, at Nuggets, home for the Timberwolves, at Spurs, at Hawks, home for the Thunder, home for the Nuggets, home for the Mavericks, at 76ers. That's like the hardest stretch of schedule any team is going to have all year. So anytime we talk about like, oh, are things going to get bad enough for the Bucks that they consider doing this before the deadline? Keep in mind that they might have like a 1-9 or 2-8 stretch ahead of them in the very near future.
Didn't they just have like a pretty easy stretch,
Yep.
but they just did not capitalize on it?
Here are their last 6 games. Pacers, Grizzlies, Bulls, Hornets, Wizards, Hornets. Oh, the Hornets are those last few games haven't happened yet, but they're in the middle of that stretch right now. Yeah. But like that, they have this easy stretch right now that Giannis came back for, but then they have this brutal stretch against all of the best teams in the West coming up. So yeah, like if they don't right the ship in the next week, it is going down.
Yeah, I think we're gonna know for sure within the next 2 weeks. Is that a 2 week stretch what you just listed, or is that a little longer?
No,
Like,
that's
when's
January 7th through January 27th.
Yeah, I would imagine by like no later than the 15th, I think we'd start to know for sure what the direction is.
Well, that's when Jonathan Kuminga is trade eligible, so that's when the deal can happen.
But if the Bucks are really serious about doing any of these buying trades, like between now and the 15th is the time. Like you gotta, especially with the schedule coming up. If it doesn't happen, then I think they're just trying to buy time and hopefully kick the can down the road for the off season. That's what it feels like. Okay. Anything else on the Heat, or should we move on to who's next?
Well, I've got one. Orlando's next. I have one more Heat thing. I know we think they're going to keep their picks and their young players available for a Giannis trade. If Giannis doesn't become available, could you use the Terry Rozier expiring proactively to help yourself in some way? A deal that I came up with was Terry Rozier for DeMar DeRozan and Keon Ellis, with the idea that Sacramento would be so happy to get off of DeMar DeRozan next year that they would give up Keon Ellis, who, spoiler alert, I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign anyway, because every good team in the NBA is going to be trying to sign him for the mid-level. It's going to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker all over again. So if you're the Kings and you think you're going to lose a bidding war for Keon Ellis, would you maybe trade, get off of DeMar and take on Rozier now just to save that extra money? Is that worthwhile?
I don't think I wouldn't do that with Keon attached. I would just, if I'm the Kings, I would just try to get it done straight up.
Well, DeMar
And
DeRozan isn't valuable anymore. Like that's
but
the Heat aren't doing
yeah,
that then.
but I don't know if you bring in, if you're the Heat and you bringing in DeMar, who is getting marginalized from that? Because I
My
don't want to
answer is
play.
DeMar. My answer is I'm doing this to get Keon Ellis.
But the Heat aren't the type of team to do that. Like they wouldn't. I don't think they're not really in the business of taking in players they don't want, even to bring in like some young player that they're into or some draft pick. They don't operate like that. If they bring in DeMar, like you don't. I don't want him playing significant minutes over Norm or
No.
Wiggins or Hawkes or Jovic. So if had they not done the Norman Powell trade, maybe that makes some sense. But where the Heat are now, they're not gonna mess with that. I could see them doing something where they trade Rozier for just someone that could help them. I just can't see it being DeMar.
Yeah, my thought is DeMar is just expiring money next year, and if they're trading for Giannis in the offseason, DeMar is useful expiring salary to have lying around. And if you can get Keon Ellis out of that, like DeMar the player is just not even really on my radar for them. It's just the money works and you get Keon Ellis, but if they're not willing to be uncomfortable with DeMar, then it's not super helpful. Because again, I think you're right. They wouldn't want to put DeMar in their rotation and take somebody out. Like maybe if somebody got hurt, then you could reconsider that, but not if they have to play DeMar 25 minutes, forget about it.
Yeah. All right, Orlando. So kind of like Charlotte, I just couldn't really get to them doing something big. We know what they will do. We can get to that towards the end. Any bigger picture thoughts on the Magic potentially doing something significant?
We do have something that we have to address as kind of a bigger picture question. And for once, it's not Paolo versus Franz. It's something else.
Oh, I know where
Anthony
this is going.
Black.
Yep.
Anthony Black is awesome. And the Magic already have 4 huge contracts on their books. I don't know what the exact Anthony Black contract is going to be, but 25 to 30 million a year feels like the right basic area, like good starter money. What do you do there? Because you can't have 5 players making that much money. There are ways that they can make it slightly more palatable that we'll get into. But like you now have 5 players in your core. Are you trading Anthony Black to avoid that contract? Are you trading one of the other guys? Like, what are you doing here?
So this is going to be something that thankfully they have a lot of time to figure it out. And I haven't even started to project it yet because I don't create my I'll create my 2027, 2028 sheets once we get to March and we have some dead time. But this is what they're looking at right now. This is going to be the last year of Anthony Black's rookie scale contract when he makes $10 million. I don't know where the Magic would be right now without Anthony Black. And I agree that with the way he's playing, I think if you're his agent, you're looking at what Dyson Daniels, Josh Giddey, Christian Brown just recently got, and you're probably asking for more. You can say like, "Hey, I've got just as much on ball ability as some of these guys," and I'm like, they're obviously I would say he's like pretty equal to Daniels defensively. Obviously, much better than
He's a level below defensively than Daniels, but he's good.
Okay. But he's a positive defensively, and this is going to be a good problem to have. So, I got to fix this because Paolo's probably not getting the Supermax.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Okay. So here's what they're looking at for next year. They're already going to be over the second apron. The only thing that's going to be different, so you got Wendell Carter's contract kicking in. I'm sure they'll have waived Jonathan Isaac by then. Hopefully, I think he's got some partial guarantees, but I don't know when. I'm sure they'll
keep talking. I'll look it up.
He's already going to be out of the picture. But even then, once you start to look at the next year, you already got Paolo and Franz making the max. Desmond Bane's basically making the max, the 25% max. Jalen Suggs is declining. So at least with that, there is a possibility for Suggs and Black to coexist. It's going to go down to 30 the following year. Thankfully, they have Wendell Carter at this controlled amount. They still have Goga, even though I think they could probably look to do better elsewhere. So, yeah, with Isaac gone, it's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna
Well,
even with
can I
Isaac's
stop you for
contract
a
no
second?
longer factoring in. Like if the objective is to stay below the second apron, I don't know if they're gonna be able to accomplish that in future
Well,
years. But again, like I think they could work around it. But this is a huge thing that they got to start working towards figuring out, because they're already gonna have some problems improving the roster. But if you got to keep him, you got to keep Black and figure it out from there. Even if he's not starting closing every game, I think you got to pay him whatever he's worth, because it's going to be really hard to get upgrades elsewhere without the draft picks and without the organization wanting to trade any of their top guys, most likely.
Jonathan Isaac already has $8 million guaranteed for next year, so you're not waiving him. You're not eating $8 million in dead money. You'd have to trade him.
Yeah, you could trade him. So that's probably the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so hard to trade guys who play that little minutes. Maybe there's a team that would look at him as such a luxury, like Oklahoma City would be kind of funny. I guess they're so close to the tax they can't do it. But like, could they get Isaac as bigger Caruso, who's only going to play 12 minutes a game, but is just going to play like crazy hard and be very valuable defensively in those minutes? Somebody like that, like who could, like, it was deep enough already that you can deal with the low minutes. But yeah, I think you're not waiving him. You'd have to trade him to justify that.
But I think the following year, when Black's next contract would kick in, it's completely non-guaranteed.
Non-guaranteed. But it does fully guarantee at 52 games played.
Oh, is that games played stuff?
Too.
Okay.
But you can avoid that if you want to. It hurts your team in the short term, but you can.
Yeah. I think he's on track to qualify for some of these guarantees for next year, actually.
Well, I don't know if I think the 52 games played is just in that year. Like if he plays 52 this year, 26, 27 fully guarantees, but that doesn't affect 27, 28.
But then for next year, if he does the same thing, then he starts to guarantee 27, 28. Am I right about that?
All I have on Spot Track is non-guaranteed in 2027, 28, but fully guarantees if he plays 52 games. So I don't know if that progressively guarantees or if that's an all or nothing, but
either way, he gets the chance every year to hit these guarantees. So,
but is it progressive?
They're going to want to trade him.
Like, my question is it progressive? Like, does it go, is there an $8 million guarantee anywhere in 27, 28, or is it either 0 at 51 and fully guaranteed at 52?
It's 0. Yeah, exactly. Okay. The latter. But
got it.
Yeah, I think you're right that the Magic are probably going to want to just get off him sooner than later so they can avoid dealing with those guarantees, which might cost them something. It's gonna be tricky. I feel like they have just more cap challenges right now to maneuver going forward than realistic opportunities at trying to improve the roster. The only thing I'm looking at is maybe they want to try to get another center. And we've touched on this, I think, like last month when we did our Who Says No episode, where with Wendell Carter he's going to be making like $18-19 million a year. They could maybe try to get another big man making quite as much. And I feel like we're going to just mention Gafford for like half the league, but he makes like the same amount of money as Wendell Carter. I think having him to bring in a guy like that to bring another flavor of center, one with more rim running ability and a little better rim protection, I think that kind of makes sense. I don't know if the Magic, like with Charlotte, they only have one first-round pick. Charlotte has more, but if you're Orlando, do you want to trade your one first-round pick available? I figure that's what it would take, especially if you're going to trade Isaac as well with his complicated salary. I don't know. I think they're going to have to mostly – I feel like they're going to mostly stand pat this one. And
we haven't addressed the real elephant in the room yet, which is that they have to duck the tax, especially if they're going to keep Anthony Black. They're going to be in the tax for a long time. So you have to delay your repeater clock as long as possible. Right now, they're $5.6 million above the line. They got to get up, whether it's Tyus Jones or Goga Batadze or somebody. I think Goga is slightly more realistic because teams would want him, and because they hopefully will have Mo Wagner coming back during the season, so they'll have a replacement ready. They have to do something to duck the tax because it would be, considering where they are this year, it would be inexcusable for them to start their repeater clocks now.
Yeah. So that's the thing I alluded to, that we know what they're going to do at the trade deadline, get under the tax. We discussed this like after the first week of the season. Goga, I mean, if they can get another big man back, if they can somehow get someone like on a rookie scale deal, obviously there's Isaac, but that might cost something, or they might have to take back a longer contract. I'm thinking more simply Jones or Howard. It would take more than Howard. It'd probably be, I think that's actually less likely unless they're willing to trade one of these guys as well. I'm guessing it's probably going to be between Jones or something a little more complicated involving Goga or Isaac.
They also fortunately have a lot of seconds to play with. So getting Utah or Brooklyn or somebody like that to take on Tyus Jones does not seem like it would be that tall in order. And again, fortunately, they probably didn't bake into their projections that Anthony Black was going to be as good as he's been. They frankly don't need Tyus Jones anymore.
Yeah, I with Black, I don't know if they were almost, they've been playing him a lot as a like a combo guard, and now I think it's pretty clear that he can be trusted to be their primary backup point guard, like lead guard. And between like the way Penda and Jace Richardson's coming along, maybe they could find someone a little better in the trade market, buy a market, but they've trusted them enough where okay, you don't need to lean on Black to play up. So I know they played Jones a lot more recently with some of the injuries they have, but I don't think it's that complicated. Just I would just trade Jones if hopefully it doesn't cost more than 1 second, and just duck the tax this year.
Yep, we fully agree.
All right. Yeah. Do I have anything else on the Magic? No, that's it. Like, I'm glad you brought up the Anthony Black stuff, because that's going to be a very, very interesting project to try to figure out how the Magic manage that with all their other contracts. So then we have one last team, the Washington Wizards. You seems like you already have some ideas with when you brought up the Trae Young possibility. Where do you land on what the Wizards should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, they have all of the cap flexibility in the world. Like, case in point, I'm not even talking about their cap space yet. So right now they're 31.8 million below the luxury tax. They have both the full mid-level exception and a $13.4 million trade exception from Kelly Olynyk available. So they could use those to separately take in two relatively expensive players for teams that need to do cap dumps. They have their own pick this year, and they have Oklahoma City's pick this year as well. I know that's the last pick in the first round, but that could actually be very valuable to certain teams if they need to dodge the Stepien rule. Like we've talked about Milwaukee, we talked about Miami. Teams like that are like hamstrung with what picks they can give up would love to get their hands on the number 30 pick just to avoid the Stepien rule. So if the Wizards wanted, they could probably get several second round picks for number 30 this year. That makes a lot of sense for them. And then, of course, they right now are positioned to have up to $85 million in cap space this offseason. And if they trade Corey Kispert, they could get up to around $100 million in cap space. So we should talk through Corey Kispert, who I think is like mildly appealing to a number of teams that are trying to win this year. But basically, any move where some team wants to save money, Washington is an option for them to deal with. And, you know, I don't even have to bother with fake trades there because it's like half the league makes sense there. The one guy I want to let's go through Corey Kispert a little bit. I think there are a lot of teams that could use shooting. The trade that I came up with, because Portland had such a good time trading with Washington last time, was Corey Kispert to the Blazers for Matisse Thybulle, Ryan Rupert, and 4 second-round picks. Is 4 too many?
So let's discuss the Wizards draft pick situation, because I don't think they're I don't think they're gonna seek seconds right now. I think they have like, if not the biggest second round pick surplus, it's up there. I remember after the trade deadline of last year, they had like 16 second round picks, and that was after trading for that first round pick that you just mentioned. That's gonna be the Thunders in this year's draft. Um, I think they're gonna be trying to start working, operating like the Thunder, where they don't have the biggest draft pick surplus. I think after this year, they only have like that 29. That's gonna be either Boston, Portland, Washington, Boston, Portland, Milwaukee. I mean, do they even have any in 27, 28?
Well, hang on. They do have a meaningful surplus in one specific way, which is that they have unprotected swap rights with the Suns in 28 and 30. That's
Yes.
not added picks, but that's added value.
So I think they're going to try to either improve their first round pick positioning, whether it's maybe trying to get like more swaps on those swaps to get the best pick possible in 28, 30 when they might be good. Um, Simply just getting extra first round picks in 27, 29, which might be harder than it might be hard to do that right now. I don't think Pittsburgh really even has that much value, because like, I think what you propose, that's probably closer to what his actual value is. Um, but then maybe can they move up in this draft? They've got the 30th pick in this draft. That's going to be by the Thunder. Maybe there's something they can do with a team looking to save money, not this year, but in the next year, because the Wizards, as you mentioned, they're going to have $80 million in cap space. They're not going to be able to use all that. Like, I would be surprised if they can use all that in both salary dumps and signing players that fit what they're doing. The Nets couldn't spend 60 million last year. They still have 15 million left over. With the Wizards, I think you're going to try to do some types of trades, kind of like what you proposed, whether it's combining or trading one of Middleton and McCollum and bring back someone who's got money for next year, try to get something else with that, whether that's some type of draft pick. Uh, what was that trade I proposed? I was saying Zach LaVine to the Wizards, mainly for Middleton. I totally forgot what the inducement was that the Kings were offering. I think it was
It
like some
was
sort of pick swap.
it was yeah, it might have been a pick swap with the Minnesota pick in 31 that the Wizards have, or that the
Oh
Kings
yeah,
have.
that's exactly what it was. If you try to do something like that, if you, let's say, can the no Sixers don't have their pick. I'm trying to think of a team that has some long-term money. Maybe they have like a middling first round pick. Uh like like the Warriors don't have any bad money they're looking to get off, but just hypothetically, what is there something where they can move, Wizards can move up from 30 to like 17 in exchange they take on a big contract, that the contract that who's got money for next year. I think
That
that's
sounds like an off-season trade more than the deadline trade. That's
it
when
could be
everybody
done
knows
now.
who's. But it's I think with picks like that, teams want the certainty of not risking like, oh, we trade a pick that we thought was going to be number 18 and now it's number 12.
I remember the trade that comes to mind is when the Raptors, they got Thaddeus Young from the Spurs, and they traded the 20th overall pick in the upcoming, what ended up being the 20th overall pick in the draft to get him, but the Spurs gave them back what ended up being the highest selection in the second round. So it was like a 10 spot
Mhm.
drop. Um, so there could be some trades where you have like a pretty good sense of certainty of what that could be. Uh, so I think that's what the Wizards are going to be trying to go for. Just try to improve whatever picks they have. It's going to be hard to get extra picks now. Um, Overall, I mean, how much longer do you think the Wizards need until they're ready to start competing again?
Well, I think it depends on what they do in the offseason, right? Like, I know it's unrealistic, but what if they just threw the max at Austin Reeves and then you had Reeves and all of these young kids and like whoever you pick this year? Wouldn't be crazy to me if they won like 30, 35 games. I don't think they're going to get Austin Reeves. We've talked about Kobe White for them as well. The structure I would throw at Kobe White if they were interested would be something like Fred Van Vliet with the Rockets, where you give him a very inflated short term salary with a team option at the end, Where like, say hypothetically, you went to Kobe White and you said, we'll give you 80 million over 2 years with a team option for a third year, with the idea that after those 2 years, we're going to decline that team option, extend you at a team friendly amount right as Alex Sarr's extension is kicking in. Would that make sense for them? I could see them looking at these guys like Reeves and White, who are reasonably young, unrestricted free agents who could help them take a step from like worst team in the NBA to maybe the play in next year. I don't think they plan to be in the absolute tank that much longer.
I agree. I think I've liked a lot of the steps that a lot of the improvements that they've had this year. And despite their losing, I still feel like they're in a good direction. I kind of feel like with Charlotte, the Wizards don't have that much longer. I think they've done a pretty solid job drafting these past, was it 23, 24, 25, three drafts. They have one more coming up. I'm pretty confident they're going to keep their pick this year. That top 8 protect the Knicks. After that, there will be a couple more big developments, a couple leaps from some of the other players that they have. I feel like they could compete pretty soon, in which case I would imagine that after 4, well, they're gonna have been out of the playoffs for 5 years, but after 4 like dedicated rebuilding years, and I suppose being in the lottery, what is it, like 7 of the last 8 years, something like that. I
I've
I would
lost track.
imagine. I imagine there's going to be some pressure from up top to let's start turning this thing around. Let's start trying. I feel like that could happen as soon as next year. And in which
Well,
case,
this is
that type of free agency signing, I that makes sense. I could see them doing something like that.
this is even why we brought up Trae Young. It's sort of the same thing, right? If you're just trying to take the next step, not from 15 wins to winning the championship, but 15 wins to 35 wins, Trae Young is a nice floor raiser. Like he makes sense for a team that's just trying to take a step, especially if you're not making a long-term commitment to him. So that is the sort of thing I could see them doing. I think John Morant with multiple years left, LaMelo Ball with multiple years left, that's harder. But if you're getting someone who only has 1 year left on his deal, why not?
Right. Anything else on the Wizards? Any trades you had in mind?
No, it's truly just like you could find a bunch of teams for Kispert. Like I think Dallas makes sense, right? Like say Boston wanted to trade for Daniel Gafford. Could you do something where Dallas got Kispert and a first round pick from Boston? The Celtics got Gafford and minimum whatever matching salary you needed, and the Wizards took in Anthony Simons to help Boston with their tax bill. That's something that might make some sense.
That's pretty reasonable, especially if the Celtics pick. I would imagine if they're going to trade a first for Gafford, they'd want to
This
trade
year.
this year's first and make sure it's like top 22-ish protected,
Yeah.
something really low.
Well,
Yeah,
you
that's
don't have
pretty
to really
reasonable.
protect. They're good. You don't have to protect that pick. They're good. But yeah, something like that where like Corey Kispert is a good shooter on a reasonable deal. And he also has the veneer of the 2024 Mavericks on him, where we didn't talk about this with the Hornets either, where like any team trading for Miles Bridges would look at PJ Washington and say, look how much better PJ Washington got on defense the moment he left Charlotte. Could that happen to Miles Bridges too? Look how much better Daniel Gafford got when he left Washington and went to a winning team. The Mavericks literally were the beneficiary of that. So if they could get Corey Kispert, they could be like, oh, he's a 38% shooter in Washington. If we bring him here on a good team, he'll shoot 42%.
Yeah. No, so I guess the bigger question is, are they going to be in a rush to trade Kispert?
Probably not. He's on a good deal.
Probably not. Like it's not like the obvious situation where they were so far ahead, so far behind from being good that I understood why they traded him at the time. With Kispert, he doesn't have close to his upside, but when you look at their player on like who's other that's not Middleton or McCollum, none of their veterans, like who are their most trusted shooters? It's basically Kispert. And then,
Yeah.
I guess Trey Johnson, there's Champagny, but yeah, he's more. Yeah, I guess he's closer to being a veteran at this point. Actually, it's not even that. He's not even. What am I saying? He's like in his 50 or something like that. So they could use his shooting. I don't think it's going to hurt them to keep him,
No.
especially this year. He's hurt right now,
No,
but
they would
even if
absolutely
yeah,
be justified in keeping him. The other thing about that is shooting is a necessary component of development. having him around makes everybody else's life a little bit easier as they try to grow.
Yeah, I would argue then he probably has room to improve his value over time.
Yeah.
They'd probably be selling him at a lowish point. So, and he needs to. He hasn't done quite enough at a consistently at a long period of time for the Wizards to get the type of value they're probably looking for. So just hang on to him. You got him a nice deal for the next 3 years, I want to say, something like that. So, um, yeah, I guess the last big question is Middleton McCollum. Do the Wizards consider buying them out if one doesn't get traded, and how much would they need to give up? Because we saw how much Smart had to give up in his buyout.
Well, yeah, I think that Smart gave up that much because he knew he had that much waiting for him with the Lakers. That's the way buyouts work. Generally speaking, you give up the amount that you're getting from your new team. And generally speaking, when you're signing during the season, especially if you're signing with a winner, you're most likely getting the minimum. There are circumstances where maybe you're getting a little bit more, but generally speaking, you're getting the minimum. And Middleton is only worth the minimum. McCollum is
Right.
worth a little bit more, but I think you would expect to get the minimum. I think the reason you buy them out is just because it's a player friendly thing to do, and you want to have a reputation as a player friendly organization. Like, something that doesn't really get talked about with the Thunder a lot is that agents love dealing with them because they're very player friendly. When they get veterans who don't want to be there, they rebuild their value and trade them, like they did for Chris Paul, like they did for Al Horford. They extend guys at the earliest possible moment, which gives them team friendly deals, but it also sets guys up for life changing money when other teams might say, "Oh no, we want to keep you at the minimum for 2 years and dick you around." Like, I think you want a reputation as an organization that takes care of its players. So if McCollum and Middleton want to go play for winners, or if Middleton just wants to go back to the Bucks, like, I don't see what the harm is in just letting them if you're not going to trade them.
So in the past, they did not buy out Tyus Jones. Not that he's at their level, and who knows if he even wanted one. Who I'm trying to think who else what other veterans passed through they did not buy out. There's some others I'm not thinking of, but yeah, Middleton and McCollum are definitely in the upper echelon, I suppose, of vets the Wizards have brought in via trade, and uh, it seems like they're gonna have to give up something substantial more than the minimum because
Well,
usually it's just whatever you just give up whatever you're gonna get from your next team, but it's not unprecedented that they give up like multi millions so they could get to the next spot.
well,
And that,
I might have one here. Detroit still has the biannual, and Detroit could probably use CJ McCollum. Maybe that would be a situation, or give up $5 million.
yes, you can look at teams. It's just historically, like I would say like 14 out of every 15 signings post buyout or just for the minimum. Like I remember, so the example I was gonna give is the Nets in 2021. They got Blake Griffin, who gave up a lot in his buyout. They just gave
But
him
he
the
got out for
minimum.
2 years.
And
That was
and then
different. Yeah.
and then they got LaMarcus Aldridge. He gave up like I think 5 or 6 million after the trade deadline. Like he gave up like a lot more way more money than he was going to get back from the Nets or any other team. The Nets just gave him the minimum again. And they had their mid-level, they had their tax mid-level, they had some big trade exception they could have used to try to get somebody who could have helped them at center, and they just got them for the minimum. I so that just in case you're wondering if both players stay, if they're going to be buyout candidates, it's probably going to be a little complicated based on the way the Wizards have operated. It seems like they're going to want them to give back something kind of substantial to get that going, regardless of whether they can recoup the money elsewhere.
Well, do you have team fits aside from Detroit that you like for McCollum? I think Middleton probably Bucks if he got bought out. We agree.
I'm starting to, if I'm Middleton, and maybe I don't even know if I want to get a buyout because there's always that stigma. And I think McCollum's still kind of not that old where maybe just play out the year and see what you can do, see what you can get in free agency. Middleton, I think that his value's already pretty low. Like he would probably just get the minimum post buyout, and I'm not I'm not sure he's going to be getting like the mid level or close to it in free agency. So I think if you're Middleton, you're probably I think you're more likely to improve your value elsewhere. Um, the thing with CJ also smaller guards just not being valued right now. So maybe you can look at that Wizard situation where if he's still gonna have a big role at the ball in his hands, might be a better role than playing on most contenders, unless it's like the Wolves. Like that's the one situation where if they can get him post buyout, they can't. No, they're over the first apron. The rules won't allow it. Um,
Well, they could trade
yeah.
Conley to get under. Wouldn't you rather have McCollum than Conley?
Yeah, you could do that if they can get under the first apron. They got to save about 8 million. So, and that's the other element. Teams like the Wolves, I think they could use either guys. They can't go after them right now where things stand. Who else is apron? The Warriors. Actually, it's not that many teams. It's not that many teams. So, I don't know who do you have any Middleton teams you like?
Middleton, honestly, like I guess not really. I just he's the injuries are such an issue for him, and he's become such a liability on defense that Middleton, I kind of just think like he's a minimum salary player at this point. I'm not giving him much
Yeah,
thought.
I'm because
McCollum is the interesting one.
so let me just the thing about Middleton is the teams that came to mind for me included teams like the Cavs and Knicks. Neither of them could sign him post buyout.
Yeah.
Um,
So there's another McCollum team. They'd have to do a little bit of work, but I think it's doable. What if the Thunder traded Usman Jang and then got far enough below the tax that they could sign McCollum at like a reasonable amount? Because they could really use another shot creator.
I don't think he'd ever play.
You don't think he'd ever play? You wouldn't play him over Aaron Wiggins? You're telling me they couldn't get 15 minutes out of CJ McCollum's offense? Like, think about how often that offense just gets stuck in the mud.
They've got AJ Mitchell. He's better defensively. I think they're fine with him.
All right. I mean, I think that.
I think. I mean, we'll talk about the Thunder probably next week. But they probably could use a big man if they're going to do something.
Detroit's my favorite, especially because we've talked about them potentially trading Jaden Ivey a lot. If they do trade Jaden Ivey, like, and you're just giving McCollum the Ivey and Jenkins minutes, I think that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, especially if they can't bring back Malik Beasley, which we've got no update on that. I would anticipate they can't bring him back. That makes sense. A little bit of a connection with the front office. Langdon was with the Pelicans. Maybe there could be something that helps with that. That makes a lot of sense.
Orlando, maybe if they duck the tax and they get far enough down, like maybe CJ is like the chance to be the better version of what they wanted out of Tyus. They'd have to duck. They'd have to give up too much money, I think.
If they give up 7 mil, they might be. No, I think if they just dump, if they did just dump Tyus, no, they should be able to sign McCollum and stay under the tax. I think that'd work.
Oh well, I mean, look, CJ McCollum is still a useful player. Like, I don't know that he's like somebody you should be starting on a playoff team, but he can absolutely play in big games.
If they straight up dump Tyus Jones, they're 1.4 million below the tax. The prorated minimum will be less than that. That would work.
Perfect.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so the point we've come to is that there's clearly going to be a market for McCollum if he wants a buyout.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll revisit buyout probably after the trade deadline. I'm sure that's usually the biggest thing people want to know as soon as the minute the trade deadline ends. But we've got about 4 weeks until that point. Sam, you got anything we should be on the lookout for?
I think this week, I don't even know when we're publishing this, but I've got New Year's predictions on Thursday, and I think that's the only thing I'm planning to publish, barring major news. But starting the week of January 5th, I will have trade deadline content on CBS Sports every single day. So be out and look out for that.
All right. Thanks for joining me as always, Sam. Happy New Year. I'm guessing this is our last recording of 2025. And everyone listening, subscribe to Third Apron wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the Substack. I just wrote about the Cavs. Came up with some rather pipe dreamish scenarios that Sam and I got into a very heated text exchange over. Check that out.
You toggled force trade on 2K.
I listen. Sometimes there's trades that people there's like two types of fake trades that people make. Ones that you think are fair, or ones that you kind of could see happening in real life, regardless of whether it makes total sense. I think most of my trades are the latter. So I try to do things I could see happening. Might not make the most sense, but a lot of things happen that don't make sense in this league. Um, Other than that, we'll be very active. We'll be continuing our division preview next week. We did all the East teams. We'll do the West next, and I'm sure if some trades come, we will be live streaming immediately to react. So thanks for supporting Third Apron, everybody. Happy New Year.